I've got one flame to burn, one race that I can say I ran.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 21047.com podcast. My name is Keith Cartwright. I'm the host of this show, and I'm glad to have you listening in today, wherever it is that you're listening and whenever it is that you're listening in on this special New Year's Eve 2017 podcast edition. This episode today is sponsored by my dear friend Tiffany Eisentrout. Tiffany has sponsored me for quite a while now through my Patreon site. Patreon's a place where you can go to partner with me financially and help me spread this mission, the message that's a part of this 21047.com podcast, along with different writing and other initiatives that I take on just to spread the light and the hope that I have found in my running journey and in the stories of some people I've met along the way out to the world, to the places that might need it most. So I thank you, Tiffany, for being a part of this and always being a pretty active supporter of everything that I do, especially in this running journey. If you're interested or want to learn more about Patreon and how you can support me in that way and become a show sponsor and get involved and receive some different other perks as a part of the Patreon partnership, you can go to my website, 21047.com, TWOTIM47.com. Scroll to the bottom of the homepage there and you'll see a link to get to Patreon and learn how you can help me out. And let's grow this mission in 2018. So thank you in advance for checking that out. I am really excited to share today's episode with you, my interview with the Chief Running Officer of Runner's World magazine for the past 30 years, Mr. Bart Yasso. Bart is retiring at the end of this year, so this is one of the last interviews in that role that I imagine that he gave. Bart has come to represent really a lot about my running journey. I ran my first and to date my only marathon back in Richmond in November of 2016. It was a 7-hour struggle for me, but I did finish it. And at the finish line, I got to take a picture with Bart and my wife and 2 boys. It's a photo that means the world to me. At the time, to be honest, I didn't know what Bart Yasso meant to the sport, really. But after getting my picture taken with him, I dug in a little bit more to his story and really came to understand after the fact just how powerful that photo was, just how much Bart means to the kind of runner I am, just a guy that is really happy just to get to the finish line without winning a first place medal or getting to stand on the podium. That's just never going to be my story. Mine and a lot of other stories out there like mine are the ones that Bart just seems to migrate toward and share and promote. I think it gets folks like me interested in this sport, drawn into a community that, in my case, really came to change my life. This running community has really had a profound influence on me. And I think it's Bart Yasso that has gone a long way towards sharing that community, drawing other folks in. So it was a real honor to get to interview him and share this story and the stories that he's picked up over 30 years. Obviously, in this short interview, we can't do all of them justice, but what a wealth of running information, running insight this guy is. My friend Robin Larkin actually connected me with Bart. We had a running joke that Robin was a Bart Yasso stalker. It seemed like every race she went to, she was posting a selfie of her with Bart Yasso. So, it just became our running joke that she was Bart's favorite stalker. But in the end, it was Robin and her stalking that connected me with Bart and gave me the chance to really bring this sort of running journey of mine to at least one sort of full circle moment where I could finish my first marathon, get my picture taken with Bart Yasso. And in that moment, I had no idea that this podcast would become part of my life. I think I knew in that moment that this running journey was going to be something much bigger than I anticipated or that I even knew. God has really had a hand in guiding me towards, again, this podcast. So to take that moment and wrap up Bart's career with Runner's World and then wrap up this 2017 by sharing this interview just as a powerful moment for a lot of reasons. I hope you enjoy this interview. I hope it kicks off your 2018 well. And here is Bart Yasso. All right, well, I want to welcome Bart Yasso to the 21047.com podcast. So welcome, Bart.
Hey, thank you, Keith. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, this is a true honor for me, one of my greatest running, and it's been a fairly short running career compared to yours, obviously, but one of my best running memories so far is finishing my first and thus far only marathon at Richmond and getting to stop at the finish line there and take a picture with you and my family. That was just truly an honor. So I'm grateful for the chance to say thank you in person, or at least close to in person right now. So thanks, Bart, for that.
Oh, thank you, Keith. I remember it well. Thanks for sharing that photo. I got to see that photo again, which really made me smile. Yeah. What a sport we have that you can go out there and accomplish something like a marathon and then greet your family at the end. And it was a pretty nice day in Richmond.
It was a powerful moment, and certainly family and friends made it even more so. So, like I said, I'm fairly new to this sport. You've been doing it a long time, and one of the questions I always ask everybody, and I'm particularly curious with you, is how did you get started in this crazy sport of running?
Yeah, how about it, Keith? Yeah, I've been doing it 40 plus years, and you're so right. We all have a journey. How do we start this craziness and get on these journeys? We don't just, we're not born and say, oh, this is a marathon runner. That's not the way it works. My journey, I needed that, I was living an unhealthy lifestyle. Thought it was cool to be drinking and smoking dope, and I thought that was fun. And then, I knew I was 21 at the time, I guess I'm almost 22, and I just said, this is not what I want to do. I want to be healthy and happy and, get serious about my profession and my life. And, I used running just to get in shape and just to get focus. And, I never thought of doing running races. I just wanted to be a runner, just to get in shape. Just started like everyone else. I ran 1 mile and thought, oh my God, that is a long way to run. I thought I was going to die.
Right.
And, but just doing that 1 mile and then eventually 2 miles and eventually 3 miles and eventually, 3 or 4 times a week I was running. And I just started like anyone else. But then for me, it was really my brother George, my older brother George. I'm one of 7 kids. My older brother George, who was a really good athlete, amazing rugby player and football player. But he challenged me to do a 10K race because he really wanted me to do races. And, so I took the challenge thinking that, there's no way my football player or rugby player brother could beat me in a 10K race. Well, he beat me. He ran pretty dang fast for a big guy. I was impressed. And, but that was the thing for me. Like, he challenged me. We went out there and raced, and I enjoyed racing. I mean, that was really fun. I didn't understand the power of the running community until I did that first race and just met so many people, and then I never looked back. And that was, 38 years ago.
Yeah.
Hard to imagine. But it's been an amazing journey, and I've been very fortunate to do races all over the world and work at Runner's World for 30 plus years. And, never thought any of this could be possible. And that's why I always use my moniker has always been never limit where running can take you, physically, spiritually, emotionally, geographically. It's, when I came back from that first run, when I, made it a mile, if someone would have told me that, I'll end up doing over 1,000 races and race all over the world and work at Runner's World, I would have told them they're crazy. I was just happy to run 1 mile.
Right.
Never thinking where I would end up. But, that's what happened. That's what happened to me. So if it happened to me, it can happen to anybody.
Yeah, so I'd read your story, and, there's tons of articles out there about you, but I was really taken by, I didn't know that you and I shared, it sounds, to some degree, I spent a lot of my 20s with a real unhealthy relationship with alcohol, and it's probably why I do what I do today. My life today, professional life, is in substance abuse prevention here in the state of Virginia, and then with a local college here. But where that really fit in well is I've been doing these podcasts and interviewing different runners at different stages of their life and different skill capacity for running. One story or one theme that keeps coming out in these conversations is how many people use running for healing. And that's really kind of caught me off guard. And I wonder if you have any insight into that. You've just been around so many runners. What is the healing power for so many different struggles people have in running?
Yeah, I hear the same thing, Keith. Whether people are addicted to food or drugs or alcohol, something wasn't right in their life, and running has helped them out tremendously. And I'm like you. I was one of those people. I just think that the sport. I think when people get into it, you got most of us when we start out, we do a lot of runs alone. Eventually you may, end up running with a running group and things like that. But I think in the beginning, a lot of people, because we don't look at ourselves like a runner when we start out. So you just like, well, no one will run with me. I'm not, so you just go out and do these runs. And I think that's where you get out there and really start to think and really solve these problems that you have and kind of realize what you want to change. And then after you started this running stuff, then a lot of people do connect with a local running club, a running group, or a charity organization that relies on running to raise funds. And once they get in that group, that's when they find these like-minded people, and they realize, they're not the minority. They're actually, there's a lot of people like you and I or them out there doing the same thing, using running as a healing process. And then they feel like, wow, I'm part of this deal. Like this is where I need to be. And I think that the healing process, it really comes from the running community. People just don't judge. We just accept people's problems, and they're here to. I think once they realize, they're committed to running, that they're committed to solving what was going wrong. So you have a lot of respect for people because they want to make change, and then people like yourself not only make change, but then they take it to another level and run for other people. Like make miles and things like that. There's so much money raised for charities and running. It's unbelievable how many people go out there. So it's not always our own healing. We kind of help other people heal. And I think that's what really is unique about our sport. And I think that's what really makes a lot of people gravitate and stay in our sport, gravitate to our sport, and then, of course, stay in our sport.
Yeah, I mean, you just beautifully sort of summarized my path. And I still spend a lot of time running alone, but like you said, I just find that to be a great place to be, to really reflect, I have a lot of conversations with God when I'm out there, but then belonging to this Meg's Miles community, I don't know. I'm sure there are other supportive communities out there, but this running community and Meg's Miles and beyond has just been this group of acceptance and inclusion and understanding. And I think you just get some things in these running communities that want you to be better, do better, which then I think leads to this piece you talked about of wanting to not only take in, but to put into the world around you. So I appreciate hearing that from you.
Yeah, no problem, Keith. Yeah, I think when you run for Meg's Miles, you don't take things for granted. Meg was a great runner, great person, great mom, great wife, great community person, and her life was tragically taken in a split second. And we just never know.
Yeah.
And I think that's, it gives us that sense of purpose, why we are here and how frail life is. and how it can change in an instant. Yeah. And, we all have to be aware of that.
Absolutely. So you started running as, this 1 mile run and sort of your own healing commitment to getting fit. And then all of a sudden you kind of turned into a pretty good runner, Bart. And I'm curious, you've hinted that you've run, thousands of races. You've been on every continent. I'm wondering if in all of those races you have some races that you personally feel pretty accomplished about, that you have outside of all you put into the running world. I'm wondering which races you feel personally best about in terms of your own accomplishment.
Yeah, Keith, it's when you retire, I'm going to retire from Runner's World very soon, actually. And, after 30 years of working at Runner's World and, again, over 40 years doing this stuff, you do look back and, I slowed down a lot. I'm in my 60s. I'm not nearly as fast as I used to be. So I look back on some races, with, what did it really mean and what was my favorite memory. And, I was fortunate to win a lot of races in my younger days and win some triathlons and, just fun stuff. I mean, it really is a nice feeling to win a race when you're the fastest person out there and break that tape. But I got to tell you that my favorite memories, I wasn't anywhere near winning the races. It was all some connection with, someone in my family, or the reason I was running this race, because it was very significant part of my life, nothing to do with running fast. And I was never a world-class runner. I was a good runner. I could win some races. But if I had to say one race where I just was, winning a race or running fast was, I won the Smoky Mountain Marathon. I think I was 43 or 44 years old at the time, and I didn't think I'd win any races at age 44. But I won that Smoky Mountain Marathon, and the year before I was pretty sick with Lyme disease, and it took a battle just to get back to be able to run. And, not worrying about could I run fast. I was just happy to be out there and running. And I got back into it and was able to start training again. And it was fun. I remember, like mile 23, I was like, wow, I am really going to win this race. These guys, I dropped the pack I was running with and was in the lead following that police car. And I said, it is a pretty cool feeling. I haven't had this feeling for a couple of years, so I do remember that. But honestly, my favorite memories are like running the Rome Marathon and seeing my mom. My mom never been to Italy, but she really wanted to go. So, in Italy with my mom running the Rome Marathon and stopping to give her a hug during the race. And my mom was always used to me running races, to get a specific time or to try to place or, run as fast as you can. And when I did the Rome Marathon, it wasn't about trying to run fast. It was just about doing the race and being out there. And so when I literally stopped in the race and gave her a hug, she couldn't believe it. And then I saw her again, but I got this great picture of being with my mom at Trevi Fountain and, during the Rome Marathon. My mom passed away over 9 years ago. So it is, I call it my favorite running memory. The picture I have of the two of us at Trevi Fountain. And then a race that I did in South Africa, the Comrades Marathon, which they call a marathon, but it's actually 56 miles. I did Comrades in 2010, and I was pretty sick at the time. I was really battling a lot of problems with my Lyme disease, but I thought it was my only opportunity to do this race because my health was failing. And I went over there and finished that 56 miles, and not nearly as fast as I used to run, but I did finish it. And it was by far the most significant finish line I'd ever crossed. It had a lot more to do than running. My older brother, George, who died of cancer, the one who got me into running, I know he always wanted to play rugby in South Africa, and he never had that opportunity. So I was thinking a lot about him when I was there. And, Comrades is the oldest ultra in the world and the largest ultra in the world, and survived going through apartheid. It kept going. The race was happening during apartheid, through those tough years. And many of the black South Africans that I spoke with, they always said they felt like apartheid didn't exist when they were running Comrades. And I always think, God, if a sport can actually suppress something as evil as apartheid, even just for a couple hours during, when this race is happening, that's a powerful sport. And I also sponsored 2 children through World Vision. And so I ran for Team World Vision. And I got to meet my 2 sponsored children in South Africa. I live in this very poor village, so it was, that was an incredible experience. And, again, it didn't have anything, running was the thing that got me there, and but it wasn't about running. It was really about that whole experience, to see South Africa after these changes of the abolishment of apartheid, to meet my sponsored children, and then to think of my brother. Hopefully I made him proud by finishing that race. So that's the stuff I will cherish and remember.
Wow, that is powerful. We've my family has sponsored some World Vision children for a long time now. You're just putting ideas in my head now about finding a way to run and partner meeting them. But Bart, as you're beloved in the running community, and I think it is more and more because of this connection you have with people as people, more than just runners. I read something in Runner's World magazine. I want to read that real quick, because you touched on your Lyme disease and your failing health and having to slow down. And so I read this in Runner's World. It said, as much as people had always loved him, as much as they responded to his message of working through difficulties and facing challenges head on and beating them, of never backing down, of taking it, of stepping it up, they responded even more when they heard a man talk about accepting his limitations, a man who, when he realized he couldn't run fast anymore, ran slow and found joy in that. He had always been the guy who could beat anything. It never occurred to him that the part of him that couldn't take it, the part of him that was most human, was the best part of all. I read that, and that just hit me powerful, but I think it does relay the source of this connection you have with so many people.
Yeah, I didn't realize that when I did slow down that it actually would be a blessing for me. Like, I who thinks that way? Well, I want to run slower. It'll be better for me. Like, we just don't think that way as runners. But that's what happened, because, I had to slow down because of my Lyme disease. I couldn't really train and like I used to, and I just ran a lot slower, but I still went out there. And what happened, I just would be back in the pack or in the middle of the pack, and I just met so many more people and ran with so many more people, and we shared stories out there, and we shared our journey, and I ended up finding more stories that ended up in the pages of Runner's World or on our website. And that wasn't scripted. I didn't say, okay, I'm going to slow down so I can meet more people. But that's really what happened. And, to me, I look back on it, it was a blessing. I'm just happy I went out there and still did races and still do some races. And, because I hear from friends that I used to race with when we used to battle it out years ago, they would never run a race today because they're not nearly as fast. And they just don't see why would I go out there and run so much slower than I used to run. And, I was telling them that I still find joy in it. Why would I not do it? I feel very lucky. I never lose sight that we're lucky that we're physically able to do this, and that we're also culturally able to do this. There's still people that are suppressed all over the world. We have these opportunities to run through the streets of Richmond, Virginia, or Philadelphia or Chicago or Los Angeles, wherever these races are, it's a joy. And we have these opportunities to connect with people. So, why wouldn't we do it?
Right.
It's not, it is a sport, and I know it is about, running as fast as you can, but there's also, you can do other things with this sport. You can go out there and just engage in the community and cross that finish line. And, I still feel joy crossing that finish line. I know I look up at the clock and go, wow, I did slow down tremendously. The numbers are a lot different than they used to be. But, when that happens, I just smile a little bit. It's, I never, it makes me laugh. And, but I just feel, wow, I'm still very lucky to be part of this community. And, I think of the people I encountered that day, and, thank God I was out there, because I just meet, just some of the most amazing people that overcome many, many more obstacles than I've ever faced. And they're out there, so why shouldn't I be out there? That's the mindset I use. And, I always said, as long as I keep getting joy out of it, I'm not going to stop. Why would I stop?
Right.
I'll stop if I physically can't do it, and, it's not the right thing to do for my health, or else, but as long as I get joy out of it and keep meeting people, I'm going to keep doing it. Occasionally there is that rare runner that makes fun of me because I run slowly these days, but it's a small percentage of people. Most people are very, I get to the finish line, get a hug from people, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, a friend of mine, we were talking the other day, and she had said, hey, Keith, if you're going to be doing these interviews, she said, you ought to go to races and interview the last place finisher at every race, because that's where the real stories are. We got to talking, the front runners, the top 2-3 finishers in a marathon or in a race, they all have fairly similar stories. They're great athletes, they're very fast, and they're out to win. And not saying that that's not a great story, but that's kind of the common story up front. But I think the further you get back, the wilder, the more unthinkable, the more shareable some of these incredible stories are. And, I look at mine. I think I only beat like 10 people in the marathon at Richmond. But, there was a lot of history in what I was doing out there. And so I look across all of these races across the country, and I really look at your job these last few years, being back there, gathering these stories. I look on it with some envy, to be honest, because I think that is the coolest part about this sport. Is it is one where you can just go in and give your best without any, like I said, there's never going to be a race I'm going into with a hope of winning it. That's just that's been ruled out long ago. But I go into every race thinking, what's going to come of this today? Because I know it's going to be something new. It's going to be something that's going to touch my life in an unexpected way. And that's the anticipation of a race for me, not whether I'm going to win or lose. So I think it's...
But, if you showed somebody the picture of you at the finish line of Richmond with your family, someone who didn't know about marathon running, just an average person, said, oh, yeah, this is me when I finished the Richmond Marathon, they would look at that picture of you, how elated you are, and how happy your family is. And I know they would say, did you win this race? I mean, you must have won this race. Look at these people gathered here. They look like the happiest people in the world. So obviously you won the race and your family came out to greet you. And as you know, and I know, you didn't win the race, but you kind of did win the race, because that's what it's all about. It's really the most significant thing is how the people that we care about the most, we care about everyone, but, your family is what, what we have the most control over. And, if they feel you won the race, absolutely you won the race. And you never know, staying there, people do say to me all the time, like, God, you're at the finish line for 8 hours and 7 hours. I said, well, I'm at the finish line till the last runner comes in, whatever that is. Like, I don't say, oh, I'm going to be at the finish line to this time to this. I stay there till the last runner crosses the finish line. That's what I do. If I'm there as a host or whatever it is, I'm not going to leave till the race tells me that's it. It's over. The last runner is in, and we have to, open the streets or whatever happens. But that's where the stories are. I remember being at the finish line of Richmond, and this woman, Yvonne, finished a half marathon. And she finished a half, and she went up to John Ludbill, from Sportspacker, the race director, and said, I want my picture with Bart Yasso. Where's Bart Yasso? And I was at the finish line. So John said, I'll get him. You just stay here. I'll bring him back to you. So, I left my duties and went over to meet this Yvonne and get my picture with her. And I was kidding with her. Why do you want a picture with Bart Yasso? And, she told me her story that she was battling cancer, and doing this half marathon just gave her a focus to stay alive and something to thrive for. And being part of the running community, she really needed the help because she was in a severe battle with cancer. And so she ran Richmond half, and then the next week she did the Philly half, and then I got a message that she passed away just like 2 weeks after she did those two races. And I look at that picture, thank God when I got my picture with her, I handed somebody my phone and said, please take a picture of me with this lovely woman. And I look at her picture often. I have it saved on my computer because, the look in her eyes, this beautiful face, this beautiful spirit that she had. She knew that she was very sick, but she didn't let on. Like, she just kept it happy and kept it, her family was there and her family was proud of her. And that's a cool thing to think, And we never know when that last finish line is, but, right. I always think, okay, I don't know when that last finish line is, but I hope I'm smiling like Yvonne, because she could care less what her time was. She just finished, her family was there, and, she was just using the sport to, just to be happy, just to be alive. And, obviously she was pretty sick when she did Richmond and Philly. I always think, I always tell people, I never pass up an opportunity. I could have just said to John, well, I don't have time to do that photo. I'm working finish line or whatever they had me doing. It's like you never pass up an opportunity because you don't know the story or, why do they want a picture with me, So I, thank God I always, groups reach out to me about speaking to kids or, whoever. I don't pass up an opportunity. Because you never know where it can lead.
Yeah, well, and I'm very grateful that you've, took the time to share your story with us today. It's just another evidence of your willingness to be somebody that puts into this running community. So I think a lot of us really appreciate that about you, Bart, so thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Keith. And you're an inspiration to me, so trust me, there's, the message I want to leave with people as I kind of wind down at Runner's World, and, I'm not going to be as prominent in the running community as I have been. I want to rest and travel less. People are inspiring, and some people don't realize they're inspiring, and they don't realize how many people they inspire. But trust me, it happens. I see it all the time. And, working at Runner's World, I have an opportunity to experience it more than the average person because people know how to get a hold of me, and, I'm at so many races, and I'm in that limelight a lot where, people will talk to me. But everyone's out there inspiring people. So people like yourself, Keith, I really appreciate what you do for the running community, and keep at it.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm curious and I'm going to be anxious to share this podcast next week as we roll into the new year. I used to think I'm going to challenge everybody to run a marathon, but then I kind of backed off of that over the last year or so and thought, well, not everybody really can run a marathon. But then I was at the Marine Corps Marathon a few months ago, and I was standing there, and a man by the name of Chris Cook, I don't know if you've run into Chris anywhere, but Chris doesn't have any limbs. He has a partial leg that would come up to, down to maybe you or my knee, and he used this one knee to push himself along the 26.2 miles of the Marine Corps Marathon on a skateboard. And
Yeah.
I saw that, and then I had the subsequent opportunity to interview Chris on this podcast. And, after talking to him, I wasn't convinced that everybody could run a marathon, but I was convinced a lot more than 0.5% of the population could run it. And so I've been working on this article this last week of 26 reasons why I think everybody should run a marathon. I'm curious what you would say. What reason would you give in 2018 for somebody to go run a marathon?
Yeah, I think the same way you do, Keith. I think everyone can. And, I would tell people that, don't think they can do it or it's not for them, use a perfect example, Chris Cook. It's amazing how many people do our sport that you didn't think it would be possible. But I would say to someone, trust me, when you engage in this community and when you cross this finish line, it'll change your life all to the better. And who could pass that up? Like, somebody knocked on your door and said, I'm here to change your life all for the better. You would say, okay, I'm all in. Like, who wouldn't want that? And I really feel that way about our running community and about accomplishing running a marathon. So I would try to convince anyone who doesn't think it's for them to give it a try. And I have a strong feeling that it will change their life all to the better, and they'll meet some amazing people, and it'll make their life better.
Well, good. I'm going to take your endorsement and apply it to my article. So, Bart, I have appreciated your time. Before I go, I do want to give one shout out, and maybe you can join this in me. So, it was a running joke for a couple of years. My friend Robin Larkin would show up at different races where you are. Robin's from the Cayman Islands, and so she'd always show these pictures of her with you, and it became kind of this running joke that she was your favorite stalker. And she's the one that kind of connected us and was behind this podcast. But she's with her mom right now up in Maryland. Her mom is battling brain cancer, and the prospects don't look good. So I saw pictures on Instagram. Yeah, so I just want to thank her for connecting us, and just let her know while I've got you here that, we're all thinking of her and praying for good things to happen with her and her family. Yeah, I agree, Keith. Robin she's a great person. I do see her at a lot of races. She's an amazing runner. She runs a lot of great races, and she's really always a joy to see. We always get a picture together, and that's such a nice person. And the beauty of Robin is she's at her mom's side, and if you or I were in her mom's shoes, what would we want? We would want somebody that next to us that we know loves us and cares about us, and that's what her mom's in this battle. But you can see, when I look at Robin's Instagram, you can see the smile on her mom's face when Robin's giving her a hug in these photos that she's posting. So I know her mom feels that love from Robin, and that has to help. Yeah. So, we connected. We got to thank Robin for connecting us, because I really enjoyed this podcast, Keith. Absolutely. Well, thanks, Bart. I want to wish you a happy new year and happy retirement. Have you got any big plans going into retirement? I always wonder about that. You do something for 30 years and you kind of develop this routine of traveling every weekend. Or do you have some plan that you're going to settle into in the new year? Yeah, still uncertainty as exactly what I'm going to do, but I am going to
try to relax more and travel less, hopefully, and that's going to help my health a little bit. And, and just, I won't have any deadlines looming over my head. So hopefully I'll be a little less stress in my life. And, we'll see what happens. I promise I will stay connected to the running community. It'll just be at a much smaller scale. But, through social media and going to a few events, I'll stay connected with people. And I'm not disappearing. I'm just, retiring from Runner's World magazine. It's been a fun 30-plus years at Runner's World, man. I wouldn't have traded it for anything.
Yeah.
I had a job where, if I could have scripted a job, what I did for a living is what I would script. And I know not many people get to say that, but I really did. I thought I was living a dream, but, after 30 years, I realized it wasn't a dream. It really was real, and I've been very lucky. But everything has an ending point, so, I just felt it was time for me to move on. Somebody young and ambitious like I was 30 years ago was going to step in and I'm sure enjoy the job. And I just can't put up with the rigors of travel and all the things I needed to do. My health is just not there. And I don't want to do my job half-heartedly. So the perfect time to step away. And someone new will come along and, do what I've been doing and enjoy it. And I'll get a kick out of seeing that happen.
Well, I always say, especially I've got 9 and 11-year-old boys, I always say the measure of my success with them will be, what kind of lives that they lead well after I'm gone. I think that's the case in our jobs as well. And in your case, I couldn't even begin to count the thousands and hundreds of thousands of people whose lives are going to continue on in a much better direction because of the job you did, the love you poured into us, and just the way you advanced this running community, because you really have brought the aspect of community to the sport. And so I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Keith. That means the world to me.
Yeah, well, hey, God bless you, friend, and I look forward to following your retirement, and maybe we can touch base later next year and see how the retired running life is going.
Yeah, I like that, Keith. That's a deal.
All right, buddy. You have a great day.
Right.
A Happy New Year, Bart.
All right, Happy New Year, Keith.
Yeah. What a powerful conversation. And again, I am really grateful that Bart would take the time. He just has this busy holiday schedule like the rest of us. And then just to be wrapping up his career there with Runner's World, I am really grateful that he would give me the time to have that conversation. Beautiful conversation, really, to set us up for the new year. It's that time of the year where we start thinking, if we're already runners, I suppose, what we can do to be better runners next year. What kind of challenges can we take on? And listening to Bart certainly gets you fired up to think about that area of our life, but just in general, his spirit, just his kindness, his willingness to put himself out there for other people. I think there's a lot of motivation in that may go even beyond his motivation as a runner. And I really appreciate that about him. Like I said, if you dig into Bart, he's into the me runner just as much as he is the elite runners. And a lot of folks would probably argue he's more into stories like mine and yours. And I really just appreciate that about him, and I hope you do too. He's a great interview to cap off a 2017 for runners, and a good interview to kick us off going into 2018. I'm sure you're all thinking about what am I going to do as a runner next year? I know I have been mapping out a little bit of a calendar, setting some goals. But I just want to keep being a part of this running community, keep drawing people into it. I'm getting ready to put an article out there tomorrow that challenges everybody out there to run a marathon in 2018. And I put together 26.2 reasons why I think everybody should do that. Most of them really draw on this idea of becoming a better version of ourselves, and it really ties into the idea that we can't do that alone. It's this community that a community of runners that holds us together, that lifts us up, that pulls us through some hard times. And to me, that's the real value and the big reason I have in encouraging folks to get out there and run a marathon. It changed my life. You know, maybe your marathon isn't 26.2 miles. Maybe it's a half marathon. Maybe it's a 5K. Who knows? And maybe your marathon isn't even running. Maybe there's just a struggle you have going on in your life right now. I hope you get something from these conversations that lifts you up there as well as in your running life. And I hope you'll keep coming back here in 2018 and listening in. I encourage you to go to my website, twotim47.com, TWOTIM47.com. Check out the article that I just mentioned. It'll be up there tomorrow, why I think you should run a marathon in 2018. I give you 26.2 pretty well thought out reasons why you should do it. If you decide not to, I hope you'll still keep coming back here. We're going to talk about runners at all distances. We're going to talk about running struggles of all kinds. And we're going to talk about life challenges and give you some fight and some finish and some faith that will hopefully pull you through whatever your challenge is. I personally wish you a very happy new year. Have yourself a great 2018. I hope God just blesses you with a lot of opportunities, a lot of wisdom to identify them when they get there, and just everything you need to follow through and make those opportunities turn into something great for you and the people around you. So happy new year, and until next time, I'll see you.